as you move up from SMB to mid-market to enterprise, it's going to get more and more complex and harder for you to get in touch with the right people. And based on their job functions, also there are quite a few changes over there. So I just want to run through using LinkedIn to map your decision makers. So using Sales Navigator, you can go ahead and find your decision makers and extract those decision makers using a tool. So another quick example of that would be if I was in retail and I just want to look through a couple of leads. Let's just say again that we're looking at sales and we're looking at only VP sales inside the US in retail companies. Well, I have a lot of results over here, but what I want to specify is your leads are actually over here. They aren't on a list that you're going to buy. LinkedIn is the one source of truth of all your sales because it's live. People change their jobs, it happens, and you don't want your sales team really spending too much time on on leads that don't exist in companies anymore. And I'm not going to spend too much time here because I want you to look into the other webinar that happened the other day where Jake from Lead Cookie went ahead and showed us how to generate leads from LinkedIn. And I just want to show you some of my favorite applications of pulling out information from LinkedIn. There's Lucia, Scrap, and Duck Soup. All right. Sorry about that. Yeah. Well, that's fine. So anyway, I want to go ahead and talk about how do you deliver the right message to the right person. You have decision makers and you have everyone else. That's pretty much how I go ahead and divide my sales leads today. Well, the decision makers are the people you really want to spend the most of your time on, but it also takes some time for you to go ahead and find information on them, find out who they are, find out what they do. So a majority of people just drop emails to everyone inside the company. Like you drop an email to someone from, so you'll drop an email to someone from sales, that's the manager, and you also drop the VP sales, who's the decision maker, the same kind of email. Well, just a second, I think we're having a few technical problems here. Just a second, sorry. Yeah, there we go. All right, so in account-based selling, we need to work things differently. So you need to give the buyer the solution only after understanding his problems and his business. That is really core. And 90% of all your effort in account-based selling is prospecting for information, and only 10% is where your pitching comes in. You only get to pitch your product to 10% because it takes you that amount of time to first find information on your prospects. It takes you time to find their problems, and it takes you time to find their current processes. So I do understand that this isn't something you can buy off the internet. You need to make sure that you're aligned to at least or a maximum of 2 or 3 types of businesses. This will really give you a sense of what that business does. For example, for me to understand my business, which is now travel and hospitality, I look up all the job description portals across the world, like starting from Indeed to many others in the UK. And I really jump into what does a customer experience manager in a retail company do? And that job description over there, it doesn't just, the best part is it just doesn't tell me what the person does. It also tells me his KPIs. So when I reach out to a customer experience manager in retail, I know his KPIs. And that's the language I use to communicate. Okay, so understanding your decision makers and understanding his business is really core to account-based selling. All right, so I've spoken so much about account-based selling, how we go about it, segmenting accounts and all of that. Let me give you a live example of what we've done. All right, I was going after the cream of retail and logistics companies not too long ago. Well, Hamleys was one of the biggest companies on my list. Hamleys happens to be one of the biggest toy shops chains across the world. They are similar to Toys R Us, but no offense, a lot more successful. Well, in this case, I found that in retail, customer response time was something marketing and customer support teams were really trying hard to improve. I found out that in many cases, marketing leaders were, in charge of customer support. And after understanding the decision maker, which is probably marketing, and understanding customer response time is something that's important, I went ahead and studied all the solutions that they could have in place. All right, so I went ahead and sent this little email here to Hamleys. I know it doesn't look little because of the big screenshot over there. Don't mind that. But apart from that, if you look at what I've spoken about here, I've talked about improving customer retention, reducing customer response time. And I also mentioned that during my research, phone, email, and web forms weren't connected for them. They were getting emails and requests from all over the place. It was really hard for Hamleys to deal with their requests at that moment. They really liked my email, and they went ahead and said, let's go ahead and have a small chat. Well, we did have a small chat, and remember, like I said, and I mentioned that people weren't ever making it for my meetings. Well, after starting account-based selling, people were making it for my meetings. People were finding my meetings important on their schedule. People were responding to my emails a lot more. Hamleys today is one of our biggest customers. They're also a really happy customer. We have, apart from improving customer retention, reducing response time, we have also helped reduce cost by 50% for Hamleys. And I want to show you that this wasn't a shot in the dark. It worked with so many other companies. Here's an example of a huge retail company in the UK. I talked about just one thing, decreasing response time if he can give me 8 minutes. He said, Clifton, you have my attention. I could do a call sometime soon, at 3 p.m. Friday to be specific. And that worked out well for us too. I know all of you have been in sales, and you might have heard of Aaron Ross and the quick question. So what is that quick question? It's really sending out an email, a targeted email of a subject line, quick question, and content being, hey, can you please point me in the right direction of and show me and tell me the person that's responsible for X or Y. All right, that's it. That's the email. All right, this is something that Aaron Ross talked about that worked at Salesforce.com in the years, late 2000s, probably 2008, 2010. But in 2018, quick question is something that doesn't always work via email. It's something that still works though, which is good news for all of us, but it needs a little more personalization. You need to add a few more touches to it. All right, so I found that LinkedIn is a great place to ask these questions. And an example of my prospecting on LinkedIn, I go ahead and ask people, I connect with them, they know what I do, and I say, you know what, you work for a really large organization, can you please tell me who do I speak to regarding this? And do you remember when I spoke about, okay, let's first find the decision maker, then let's find the problems, and then let's find what solution we can deliver. This is exactly what prospecting is all about. You need to ask them the right questions and answer all these 3 points. Over here, I tried finding out who was in charge of a certain segment. This is, by the way, the biggest travel company in the world. Who's in charge of it and what do they currently use? Here he says that they use Outlook and email. And I asked them if they use Outlook and email, said they even gave me an answer of a third-party software, but they also said, you know what, I think this is the person you need to speak with. And that's just a small example of how you can go ahead and prospect, ask the right questions, check the boxes I spoke about, and that'll help you fine-tune and bring about a story.